What's up, Internet? My name's Ernie.
And I'm Clarus.
And this is our review of Guardians of the Frickin' Galaxy, Part 3.
Let's go.
No spoilers. Missed. That is right. The head of DC Studios, James Gunn, is back with a Marvel movie because this is the timeline we live in.
Yeah, the streams are crossed.
Yeah. After Guardians 1, Guardians 2, and then some detours for the Guardians through a couple of other movies, the main cast is all back, although some of them are back from the past.
Yeah, they're kind of... They're kind of back, and they're kind of dealing with that.
Yeah, this movie is really about dealing with your shit in a way that I really appreciated. I thought James Gunn brought together the cast for a final hurrah of this crew. I mean, this film is clearly built to be a goodbye to these characters, at least for James Gunn. Yeah. The characters themselves, who knows what's going to happen with Marvel, with Kang and Secret Wars and everything that's going to happen in the next few years. But this was clearly James Gunn's goodbye to this franchise.
100%.
And I think in doing so, he created a rather successful film that might be a little long and a little bleak, but otherwise I think is an emotional and entertaining movie to sit through.
Yeah, I'm gonna be like completely upfront that I don't think I'm gonna have a lot to say about the movie and that it should be taken with a grain of salt because I kind of had to disassociate myself.
What do you mean?
It's too bleak. The animal cruelty stuff it was a step too far for me, and I had to kind of like shut off a little bit to not have a like terrible rest of my day.
All right.
Yeah, so I'm just like laying it all out on the table, like being completely honest. I like tried not to think about anything too hard because I could not.
Interesting. I didn't expect you to say that. I agree with you, though. I didn't have as strong a reaction. I was very emotionally moved by a lot of the film. But at the same time, I was going to bring to the table that this film is not for the same people that the first two Guardians films are for.
No, it feels very different.
Yeah. And it's a much more mature film.
Yeah, not in a... Well, I don't know. Maybe for some people in a bad way, but I don't think like the movie's bad, but it's different. It's very different.
I think that this is going to be a movie that a lot of people do not enjoy at all. And I think that there's going to be a lot of people who say this is their favorite Marvel movie. And I think that it isn't going to be a question of quality, because I think the quality of the filmmaking is very high, but it is going to be a question of what the camera lingers on and how that hits certain audiences. I think that people who bring their children to this film are going to be upset with how their children respond to it because they're going to be horrified. It goes really far. There's so much animal cruelty in this movie, and it isn't like off screen. Like it is the plot of the movie. It is what the movie's about.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that it affected you that much.
I kind of just like in the middle of the movie, I was like, I can't do this.
We try not to talk too much between when we leave the theater and when we do this, so that we can kind of surprise each other like this. I'm sorry that you had that experience.
No, it's fine. It's weird. Like, I haven't had that kind of experience since the Batman movie, but I reacted very differently to that one.
The Batman movie?
The Robert Pattinson Batman movie. I panicked a little bit in the middle of that one because it was too real worldy.
Oh, yeah.
Like incel stuff. But this one I like in the theater just had a different reaction to the like this is too far for me, and I think that the movie would have had a very strong impact on me. I think those story beats would have probably really worked for me, but I couldn't let them happen.
That's
if
100% fair.
I don't know if I'm explaining that very well.
No, I think that that's a totally valid way to take in this film. I think that James Gunn, who is a very effective horror director and who I loved before Guardians, for Slither and for like those kinds of films that he made.
Yeah.
I think this movie leans into some of the visual things that made him so good at making those kinds of movies. And in doing so, I think created an experience that can have that reaction. And I don't think that you're going to be the only person who does.
No, I definitely don't think I'll be alone in it. Like, I'm not like, it's one of those things where, you know, when like, You know, have people ever told you that they, like, have a reaction to, like, babies crying?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have that. But if animals make distress noises,
Mm-hmm.
it makes me sweaty and vomity.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm sure I'm not, like, the only one. And so, if you are thinking of seeing this movie, keep that in mind. Yeah. Know that, like, know that about yourself and prepare accordingly.
I think the other thing that might have attributed to the vomitiness was we did actually watch this movie in 3D. And we don't typically like 3D. It was a ticket snafu and it just happened that way.
It's still not my favorite.
Here's my problem with 3D.
Uh-huh.
This movie had exceptional 3D that was used very effectively at parts.
Yep.
And still, it doesn't do anything to benefit the movie, in my opinion. 3D is a separate category that it just doesn't, it's never mattered to me. I think that it's gimmicky and this was a reminder that it makes my head a little bit woozy and it doesn't make the movie better enough to justify the wooziness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. Like 3D was very fun when Avatar first came out and I saw it then. And Spy Kids. And that's about it. Like
the Science Center watching like nature documentaries in 3D was cool.
Sure. Yeah. That kind of stuff, that's rad. But, I'm going to make sure that we don't end up getting any 3D tickets again.
The cast of this movie mostly returns from previous films. The main new addition to the cast, other than some cameos that we will not discuss because they're very fun and you should experience them for yourself, was, I really can't imagine I'm going to pronounce all of this correctly, but Chukwudi Iwuji, who was fantastic in Peacemaker and who we absolutely loved, makes a return as the High Evolutionary, the main villain of the film, and he is like literally excellent.
Horrific. In the best way. Yeah.
He is so effective. I oftentimes don't like yelly villains. I can find them to be grating and also just kind of bland in their like sameness. And there is a lot of yelling from this villain, but partially because of his connection to Rocket and the way the story plays out through Rocket's childhood and the main timeline, I think that you see a man unravel in a way that makes his presentation of this character absolutely riveting. And one of the saving graces of the movie, I think that if you were to go as far with the animal cruelty as this movie does and not have a villain at the center of that narrative who is as competent and as well played as Chukwudi does with this role, I don't think the film works at all.
Correct.
And I think that James Gunn selected the perfect actor to anchor such a bleak element of this film in, because he brings everything that he needs to bring that character to life and to really like give the film the justifiable evil that it needs to understand why this is happening. Not justifiable evil in that I agree with what he's doing, but like justifiable in that
understanding where he's coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand why he thinks the way he thinks, even though he's
reprehensible.
Yeah, like.
And I was really impressed. I loved him in Peacemaker. I loved him here. I'm curious to see like what he does outside of the James Gunniverse, because I've never seen him directed by anybody else, and now I really want to. I want to see him on stage. I think he's a really talented actor. But our main cast is back: Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Pom Klementieff, Karen Gillan, Vin Diesel, Bradley Cooper, Sean Gunn. The cast goes on and on and on. There's so many Guardians now. Did anyone stand out to you in this film versus their previous interpretations of these same characters?
Yes, actually. Oh my God, Nebula.
Karen Gillan. Yeah.
Karen Gillan actually very much surprised me. We rewatched Infinity War and Endgame this past week.
And the first two Guardians movies.
And Guardians. Because I was like, oh, you know what? Guardians, actually, all four of those movies I think I've only seen once or twice. And I was like, I just need a little reminder to figure out where we're at. And I was really blown away at Nebula's characterization. And also having the previous movies fresh in my mind, where she started and how far she's come. So that one was actually that was the standout for me, particularly in this movie, other than Chukwudi.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think Karen Gillan does an absolutely incredible job. I think this is the most interesting Nebula's ever been. It's also the most she's ever been given.
Yep.
So that's definitely a part of it.
Yeah.
But the full arc of Nebula here is on display, and the characters, I've just never cared as much about her as I did here. Mm-hmm. And I think she's always been good at the part that she's been given. Yep. I just think that in the movie, asking more of her, she stepped up to the plate and really delivered everything that was asked of her.
Yeah.
In a way that I walked away from the movie being like, oh, I actually really love Nebula now.
Yeah, me too.
Whereas I've always been like, she's a good supporting character.
No, yeah, she was kind of my favorite, honestly, like, just character in this movie, I think.
Yeah, I think the one person that I honestly could have used a lot more of, much like Avatar 2, The Way of Water, was Zoe Saldana. I felt like as important as Gamora's arc is to everybody else and why we're in the position we're in at the beginning of the movie, I felt like the movie did not give her enough time on screen and time with the Guardians to tell the story that I think they wanted to by the end.
I don't know if I agree with you on that, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah, I like, because the movie's not about her and doesn't really feel like it's about her. And so I was perfectly happy with what she did and with what she was given. I'm always happy for more Zoe Saldana. Like, I wouldn't have been upset by it by any means. But yeah, I didn't feel that way.
I just wish that for my taste, I wish that the Star-Lord story had either included her more or less. But because of the rest of the narrative of the film, I just felt like it could have gone either way, and it was just a little bit too in the middle of those two things for me.
Okay.
Drax and Mantis are doing Drax and Mantis stuff for most of the film, and they have ending's great. The ending of this movie is really solid.
Good, yeah.
Honestly, I will say the last 15 minutes of the movie make the rest of the movie work. I was kind of like, I don't know how I feel about it until the last 15.
It's tied up together very neatly in the end. And you were saying, we did talk like a little bit in the car. You were saying it's kind of, especially in terms of Marvel films, fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
Like there is like one through line, one story, like a really main central theme. And it doesn't deviate very far from that. And it's not like Marvel cameos and, side plots and stuff like that. This movie is very focused.
Yeah, it isn't like an endless series of MacGuffins, which I really enjoyed. Mm-hmm. There is one, but it isn't a like, we got this MacGuffin, now let's go do this MacGuffin, now let's go do this MacGuffin. It really is a much more centered and more focused plot than that. And I think that's to the movie's benefit because it is juggling so many emotional journeys and the closing of so many chapters for so many characters.
Yeah.
I think that keeping the plot rather simple and allowing the scenes to really be about the characters is really smart.
Yeah, I agree.
We talked about the music while we were leaving, and you thought you felt the music was different in this one than the previous movies.
Yeah, having just watched the previous two Guardians movies, the pop music in this one ended up being distracting for me by like the third act. It felt like it was a little bit overused and less intentional.
Yeah, I feel like there are more needle drops in this movie than previous films.
Yeah.
Do you think that any of that is because this movie has music that we grew up with versus the previous movies having music that predates us?
No, because I still recognize those songs from the previous movies.
Yeah, but they're like one of the things I noticed about the Guardians, the first two Guardians, is that they're my parent songs, and this was my songs.
The only song in this that was like my song was, I think, like the finale song and one other.
Okay.
So I'm gonna say I don't think that's it.
I was just curious because I noticed that this time, because of the joke at the end of Guardians 2 where he gets the Zune that has 90s and 2000s music, there is a lot more of 90s and 2000s music in this that was different to me because I'm so used to being like, oh yeah, that's like a rock classic. And this time there were songs I was like, oh, that's my childhood.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of music in this movie where I was like, oh man, I'm 9 years old again. Like I remember when this song was on the radio. And so that felt different to me just because it was no longer like my dad's music. It was mine.
Yeah, okay.
And
I did not experience that.
We had very different music tastes at that age though.
Yeah.
Mine
is Weird Al. Like,
yes. Yes, it is. Yeah.
And 80s music. Like, let's be honest. I was bopping out to Madonna. Like,
I think for comics fans, there isn't a lot of comics cameos. This movie was not very like Marvel universe. It was really more about the Guardians universe, and I appreciated that.
Yeah,
there is some great stuff. Will Poulter does play Adam Warlock from the trailers. You'll have known that.
Yeah, that's not a surprise.
I am very curious to see how people feel about the portrayal of the character, and I cannot wait to see online how people feel about that.
Yeah, I have no idea anything about him from the comics.
James Gunn made a decision with it, and it really works for the movie.
Yeah, it worked for me. Not knowing anything about the character, totally worked for me.
It really works for the movie.
Yeah.
If you,
Okay.
I don't know, it's very different from the comics in some ways.
But so is Drax, right? We were listening to History Lesson, and I was like, I'm sorry, Drax, what?
Everything about Drax is different from the comics. Because Drax is a human from Earth in the comics.
Yeah, who just changes colors.
Well, no, he has a soul. It's a whole thing. He has 2 souls. There's a whole thing.
Yeah. That was bonkers.
What have we not discussed? Is there any big stuff that we should still bring up?
There's an interesting choice at the end that they make with Groot. It was a little off-putting. I'm not gonna lie. It made me jump in my seat. But that's.
I am curious to see how people feel about it.
That's spoilers. So I'm gonna be checking Twitter to see how people feel about that one.
Yeah. There's one planet they go to in the movie that I really didn't like looking at.
Yeah, true. Yeah, 100%.
So thanks for that. If you've seen Slither, you'll know exactly what it is.
Oh, okay.
I feel like that's our review. I liked it. I enjoyed it. While also I was more moved by it than most Marvel movies. I think that it does have more of an emotional weight than a lot of other films. While also I was a little bit taken out of the movie by the elements that I was sitting there being like, I really don't want to bring children to this.
No, viewer discretion advised. It should not be taken lightly with this movie. I unfortunately don't have any strong opinions on this movie because I could not be in the mindset for that.
Do you think that you would watch it again, or is this one that you're like, nah, I'm good?
I feel like I would watch this movie again if I was having a bad day and I needed to cry.
Why would you do that to yourself?
You never done that? Where you just I need a good cry, and then you shake it off and you're like, all right, I feel a bit better.
No, I cry all the time. I cry at good things that I like to watch.
That's true. No.
And not that this isn't good. I enjoyed it. But if I need to cry, I watch
Oh no, I used to put on The Lion King.
The Lion King, actually.
That movie breaks me every time. Or the one that will never not get me is Harry Potter Deathly Hallows Part 2.
What?
The scene spoilers. the scene where Lily's at the crib and she's like, Harry, Mama loves you. Dada loves you. And I'm like, oh God, I can't. That's the one that I will watch that if I just need to cry for a little bit so that I can haul myself up by my bootstraps and get on with my day.
All right. Well, on that note, if you like this video and you use it to cry, hit the like button. If you don't use this video to cry, also hit the like button or hit the dislike button. Or comment about Attack on Titan below, because somebody will.
Somebody will.
If you want to follow us around the internet...
We should do a counter. See how long it takes.
If you want to follow us around the internet, you can. I'm at Nerdy Nightly.
I'm at Claris Pilar.
As always, y'all, do something nerdy tonight.
Bye, guys.
Bye.